Why say
John, Mr. President, recording.
extension? Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order. Rise for the pledge, please. Oh, sorry. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ned Duke, who owns Freedom Fitness down here, sent me a friend request, and I accepted it because he's a businessman. I figured, it would be good to be in contact. And little did I know that every week I would get a little tidbit. I'm sorry. Would get a little tidbit in my Facebook feed, and on Valentine's Day he sent this, which I thought was very to the point. But he said, regardless of relationship status, today is a day of love for one another and humanity. In times like these, when it seems everyone is divided, it's important to remember that being united, supportive, and loving is what makes us all stronger. Today is the day to recognize that and love everyone a little more from here on out. I liked it, so I thought I'd share it.
Very nice.
And I have a microphone, so I can do that. Okay, we're going to have a public hearing on the opening of Juanita Alley. Is there anyone here who wants to make any comments or address any issues or concerns regarding opening the alley?
Raymond Knoll, North Constitution Avenue. I don't know what the problem is with the opening of the alley. In 2013, we had a problem with the alley behind our properties and what have you, and we came to the council and what have you. The secretary then said, oh, we've checked that out thoroughly, me and the solicitor. It's a private alley. I said, well, I've got deeds here, and Will Schuhartz has deeds here, that it's a public alley. Well, so much for that. It was settled. After that, Council President Brady Terrell said, as of now, every alley in the borough of New Freedom is adopted. John Banker said, what about the alley between East Franklin and Main Street below Constitution Avenue along Denny Cummings' property? Brady said, I just said every alley in the borough is now adopted. John said, just checking.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, we have an ordinance that's already been written. It's later on in the agenda, but it's probably appropriate to just discuss it now. We have an agenda to, an ordinance to open the alley. Alleys do have to be opened by ordinance, so that's why we went through all the trouble to write one and whatnot. So I would accept a motion to open Juanita Alley.
I make a motion.
Okay, Burnell has made a motion.
Second.
Dennis is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. The alley is open.
Twice.
Okay, public comment by visitors on agenda items. Anybody? Okay, approval of minutes.
I move we approve the January 3rd reorganization meeting minutes as written.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. I want to just stop for a moment too. Inga Andrews is back with us and she's completed her treatment, and it's just good to look down the table and see her smiling again, so.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the treasurer's report.
Probably should.
Say again.
Probably should do them separately.
Yeah. Actually, we have two treasurer's reports, one for January and one for December. So the first one would be for January, or December, sorry, got backwards.
The community center fund started in the red. Does it normally start out like that?
Normally until we get lease payments in, then that's basically the amount of revenue that you're getting from the lease payments and then any rentals throughout the year. So, yeah, that transfer, and basically what happens, and it's in the budget, is to transfer money from the general fund to the community center fund to make up any deficit. Kind of anticipation note, yeah.
And then the rec council, do they have to pay, would they use the community center at all when they have events like their pickleball, like this? I know they charge the pickleball people, but then do they pay on top of that for having use of it?
Like for the Veterans Day, no, they don't.
Any of that?
No, it's waived for rec, for community events.
Can I ask a question? I got one. I'm just curious. It says Jordan Landscaping. Now, what are they doing like now? I mean, I'm just curious. I don't.
That was, they actually mowed until late October, early November, so until he invoiced us, it was paid in December.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering about that. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So our Public Works doesn't mow everything, or just too
No,
much?
that was contracted out, early
About a
January.
year and a half ago.
Yeah, we still mow some of the retention areas that they can't easily reach. Everything that they can hit with a riding mower pretty much is, they take care of now. And the reason for that was our public works people are now doing all the stormwater maintenance and the management, the turning of the water valves. There was just extra work to do, so we did a cost analysis and put it out for bid. And he won, actually he was the only bidder, but it was a good bid. Donnie had checked it and made sure that it was reasonable.
Is that amount for 1 month for the borough, or?
His cost per mowing or per week is $13.75, $1,375.
For the month?
So if it was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had that question too. And USA Blue Book, a few times.
Yeah, so that's all different supplies, either for the water system or sewer system. It could be anything from pH buffers to
Okay.
beakers to different solutions, chemicals, gloves.
They actually have to get a water meter through USA Blue Book, because they're the ones that carry a mechanical meter.
And that's one of the things that we can buy without putting out for bid, because it's a municipality blue book. But
Yeah, it's
So does
just
it always go to the water plant and treatment when you see that Blue Book? Is that, or is it? for-
USA Blue Book. I would say 9 times out of 10, it's going to be either water or sewer.
And, okay, so lab services was several times. Does that have to do with the treatment?
Yeah, that's,
also?
the lab is in New Oxford, so that's all the samples for the water system and the sewer system. And you'll see that on both sides as well.
To learn all these.
So,
Um, goes And I was just wondering, on the Penn Place, I know there's been a lot of missing and so forth, and things going on. Are you looking at, are we paying the full
Well,
price?
actually, I was gonna address that in the president's report, but it's a good question. Ryan and Andrew and I have been working, we've put in a request for basically a 50% fine on the day that they missed. And that money, we're intending that to go back to the residents. It won't be kept in the sewer fund.
How would it go back to the residents?
It'll be a credit on their bill, right? Everyone in the borough will get a credit of, I can't remember, $5 about.
On each occurrence that happens?
Well, on this last occurrence. So we're hoping it won't happen again. But yes, if it happens again, it would be, you know.
Okay.
They have asked for a conversation about it, but I don't anticipate that it's going to change. I mean, we've let them off the hook for quite a few times in the interest of trying to maintain our relationship and the fact that we're all struggling to get through COVID. You know, but Ryan actually had a very good analogy. You want to say it, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay, his analogy was, if you go to a restaurant and they don't have enough staff to feed you, you still don't have to pay for the food. So, you know, if they don't perform the service, they really shouldn't be getting paid. So, I like his analogy.
Now, under a declaration by the governor that he closes 83 to all truck traffic, that's not gonna,
Oh, no, if it's an act of God, like you have a huge storm, obviously, if they can't get their trucks through, we're not gonna request that they try to get, you know,
just so
there's an act of God.
folks know that, because a lot of times they lower the speed limit to 35 and trucks over a certain tonnage can't.
All right, no, that's a safety issue, yeah.
When I was at the tax thing a couple of weeks ago, a number of the municipalities were bringing that up, that they did exactly the same thing, they fined them, because they didn't supply the staff. And then the other reasons, they didn't fine them for that particular thing they did.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
You gonna bring up anything else about Penn Waste, or no? Are we done?
Such as what?
I didn't know your president's report. Well, I would think Andy maybe would like to address that. We've gotten a lot of complaints about the increases for Penn Waste on social media, and I think it's
Well, why
important.
don't we get through the treasurer's report, and then we can, we'll
Okay.
circle back.
All right, that's fine.
And the 2022 Equinox, did we purchase a vehicle?
That was actually
Yeah, that-
last budget year, and that was budgeted in those funds, and it was ordered in August or September, and we were told 33 weeks at that point. And so it's still on hold, but that was basically to keep it in that budget year.
Okay, so we haven't received this vehicle.
No, the check's sitting there, but we haven't received the vehicle yet. But we wanted to make sure it was under the budget year where those funds were out.
Okay, and who's this vehicle going to?
So that's gonna be split between all the departments, which is why it's split on there. So it's basically for any office staff, whether it's training, go to the bank, get supplies, same with water and sewer. If there's training that you need to go to, especially on the general side, if you have 4 guys in the you're taking 2 vehicles, so better to have one to go through. And plus, even when we're looking at our insurance, we're not supposed to be really having the employees use their vehicles to go do things. We're supposed to have them in one of our vehicles. So that'll stay here between here and the garage, and basically use it's a floater vehicle.
Floater car?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be marked at all, like one of those magnetic
Yeah.
on the door?
Yeah, all of the rest of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last one was the Williams Service Company.
Yes. They do work here on the HVAC system.
Okay. On the vacant properties, isn't too bad.
Yeah.
It could be a lot worse, but
Yeah,
are we able to be
I
in
actually-
contact with them? I mean,
Yeah.
being they're vacant, do we have communication going?
Depends.
The billing clerk works with a stock and leader to make sure that we have the liens up to date on those properties when they're vacant, so that if something does transpire to sale or property, we collect our back
Okay.
to fees.
About how many vacant properties would you say just roughly are
It's,
Dealing with this.
I just ran that report, and it's only really a handful that are vacant.
Just a
Yeah.
handful.
And they just kind of keep accumulating.
I actually was gonna make a comment later, but I'll make it now. I mean, that report has come down from like 60,000 down to 16,000.
Yeah.
So Victoria's really been doing a great job.
It
Really stayed at a low level for
Yeah.
about a year now.
Yeah. So I think she's doing great. Entertain a motion?
I'll
If
make
there's
a,
no other
mo-
questions?
I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report for December 2021.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I-
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, for January?
So I think I like that it's broken out. They're a little bit of a different format, I should say.
And we're open to suggestions from council on what you would like to see in this report.
Bigger print.
Yeah, and we can change that and change some column widths, and it's difficult to get all the account number information in there.
Printed
We
landscape.
can go landscape with it, absolutely. And then the cash flow report's gonna look a little different. Kind of explaining earlier, that's the document that I handed out this evening. Down the left-hand side, you have all the accounts that we currently have, bank accounts. Along the top are the different funds. So you can see where the funds are allocated through those different checking accounts. And then we have the normal committed, emergency, and assigned fund balances at the bottom. So you get an idea of what's actual uncommitted or free cash on hand at the very bottom. So again, these are actual bank balances of these accounts.
And the red numbers are because we haven't drawn down on the line of credit as yet, correct?
Red numbers down here.
Right.
Well, so your committed fund balance, based on your fund balance policies, is 16.7% of your budget revenues. So that 322 is 16% of your general fund budget revenues, less any one-time payments. So for things like draws on loans, grants that don't reoccur every year. So basically, it's your real estate and earned income tax revenues. Your emergency fund is just based on infrastructure for water and sewer. And then your assigned fund balance is for projects that are awarded but not yet paid. So that'll change different after tonight's meeting, and we'll be, since they started the public works renovation and then the street project, we'll be increasing those for February's report.
The street project, as far as the paving, like the upcoming paving for the year? Just wanna make
Yeah,
sure
because
that-
at that point, that money's assigned to that
Yeah.
project.
I just want to make sure we weren't talking about Constitution.
No.
Okay.
So this way would help on what it's for. So if I see Kelly Blue, I would know that was for the water.
Yeah.
It would help that way.
Well, it's not Kelly Blue Book, it's USA Blue.
Well, yeah.
As soon as I saw it the first time, I thought, why are you using Kelly Blue
No,
Book?
they're selling cars, what are they doing?
When did we appoint an animal control officer?
That's the shared,
I don't remember us appointing an animal control officer.
Well, that's through the annual contract.
I didn't think we had a contract with him before. Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't ever remember seeing that in there.
As far as what I look back, it was in the records.
Isn't he in Glen Rock, the animal control person?
Well, he lives in Glen Rock, I think, but they
Because
use him
I
in,
know
I
years
know they
ago
use
we
him in
had him, and my
Shrewsbury.
dog was
Yeah, yeah.
picked up once and I had to pay.
We don't have a full-time.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion that we accept January 2022 treasurer's report.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. This for us to sign. Okay. And let's see that again.
Do we have to have executive session
Okay.
back in January?
President's report. I'm sorry?
We got the February, January meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure, I
What
didn't
was
know
the
if
question?
we had to announce the executive session that we had back in January. I didn't know that I thought it was after the meeting from January.
It was before because it was so late, yeah.
Our meeting was
All right.
January 3rd.
Okay. President's report. I just had a couple of things. You started to talk about Constitution, and I guess a couple of days ago, we found out that the PennDOT is not going to back us on Constitution. So what Andy has done is he's negotiated a longer warranty on the road, but they're not going to mill it. They said that it's not sufficient. It actually falls that back to PennDOT, but they basically said the actual verbiage is the speed limit is less than 40. Is that what it was? 35 or less, and they don't consider it an undrivable road. So without the backing of PennDOT telling them that they have to do something about it, PennDOT says it passes, so there's not anything we can do.
I thought they already said it didn't pass. Or is that just the
Go
study?
ahead. Why don't you-
Yeah, so we had the profile
Yeah.
report done on that section of Constitution Avenue. And basically it came back and it's outside of the standards that PennDOT would normally accept. However, PennDOT only looks at those standards on roads above 35 miles an hour. And because the section is 35 miles an hour, those standards don't really apply. And it passed the compaction test. However, they were able to do that, it did. So at this point, the only thing that we went back to the contractor and asked is if they could provide an additional warranty period. And that honestly helps PennDOT as well, because after 2 years, the
PennDOT
HOP, the highway occupancy permit, expires and it becomes PennDOT's responsibility. So after 2 years, it would really fall on PennDOT Maintenance Division to maintain that or make improvements or do whatever. So we're trying to help them out a little bit. We asked for 5 years instead of 2 years, and the contractor agreed to that.
You know how well PennDOT does.
Yeah, it's not good, but
No.
it's,
It's something.
I mean, we could try to take it to court, but we probably, they would just say, well,
Yeah.
PennDOT says it's okay, and
Yeah,
we would lose, so.
Now, they will be fixing the area that lifted back in September during Hurricane Ida.
Okay. A little further east, I think.
That was, there's a how long is that section, like?
It's probably about, maybe 100 feet. It's between Highland and Reeling Road. So
Yeah.
basically where the welding shop was at,
Yeah,
it was right after that, right over the curve there.
yep, yeah, right, just a little east of where the profile issue
Yeah.
was. All right.
Okay. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. We've been working, Kim has been going, and Dr. Ann Shimo's been going to the EMS meetings, and I have a report, blood on it, from Dr. Shimo, and I probably, the two biggest things on the report is the fact that Rose Ambulance, Glen Rock, Tri-Community Ambulance, and Seven Valleys are all trying to get involved in this study now. And we were just having it between Rose and Glen Rock. So it's picking up steam as far as getting quality EMS services for our citizens. So they're going to join the DCED study. Glen Rock, per Ed Bailey, Glen Rock Ambulance is in imminent danger of collapse due to lack of funding, and they're working with their council and government in Glen Rock to try to get additional funding. We also had a billing meeting that Kim and Ann and myself were at, and that meeting they talked about a number of different things with billings, but basically a lot of the money that we thought was collectible, it turns out is not. So it went from like $700K down to about $500K that they consider still collectible. But one important thing that came out of it was the fact that if you have private insurance, like for instance, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you take an $850 ambulance trip, the Blue Cross Blue Shield sends you a check. I'm sorry? No? They send you a check. And a lot of times the EMS never get the check from the patient or participant. It just gets absorbed into the participant's budget. Part of that is because it might take a long time to get the bill, but part of it is just it just gets absorbed into their budget and the money goes away. So they tried for years to get the law changed, and Burnell knows Christian Phillips Hill very well, and Kim and I both know her as well. So Kim and Burnell and I are going to go meet with Christian Phillips Hill and try to get an initiative going. And this is actually a statewide thing. It's not just New Freedom or Glen Rock that is getting hurt. And they actually felt about, what, 20% they said?
Yeah.
Yeah, they only get 20% of the money from private insurance. They lose the other 80% of the money. So if you figure that out, it's probably tens of thousands of dollars. So anyway, so that's happening. Anyone have any questions on that? It's a weird thing. It almost seems insane that they wouldn't get paid. And if your insurance sends the money to your doctor, why wouldn't they send it to the ambulance company for the ambulance? So it just seems to make sense. So we'll try to get that resolved. It seems like a windmill worth tilting at. So
the idea is to have the law changed so the insurance companies
has to be changed at the state level, yeah. So we'll see what we can do. Christian Phillips Hill is very pro individual, very pro first responder, so I'm hoping that we could get that done.
Yeah, she said that today when I had talked to her, actually before I came here today, and she said that they're really working on trying to get that straightened out. They said there's a lot of companies, not only in our area, but there's some that are really in bad shape because they just can't get enough money. And I think there's something to do also. I don't think you're allowed to bill the people depending upon how some of those issues are. I don't understand that, but I better not say too much because I don't understand that well enough. But there's something that we couldn't bill the people. That has to, I think, be done by the insurance company.
Well, we can
Something
bill.
like that.
There's some money we can't collect because of the insurance company. We can't, on an $850 ambulance ride, you might only have to pay $300, depending on if it's Medicare or if it's whatever,
Medicare and Medicaid, they have two separate amounts that they max out at, depending on whether you're on Medicare or Medicaid.
And it depends what the ride was for. I mean,
Right.
somebody may call for, I don't know, something that's serious, and then, yeah, well, it's not too serious, but since you're here, how about taking you to the hospital or something, you know? Well, Medicare doesn't, they don't pay much for something like that.
What surprised me was a lot of times if it's what they call an ALS call, where you have a paramedic that can give medications, injections, start IVs, the ambulance isn't allowed to charge for any
For any
drugs, IV, bandages, any of that stuff. It's ridiculous, you know, they have to eat the cost of that and can't pass it on.
So, though, anyway, the bottom line, and the reason I bring it up here, is that we're trying to protect tax dollars. I mean, we're trying to, you know, we realize that as a council, we are going to have to kick in for EMS, we're gonna have to kick in for fire, but we want only to pay our fair share. So we're trying to get as much of the money out there from the insurance companies back so that we don't have to subsidize that portion. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're going to be doing that in the next few weeks, I hope. The only other thing I had, well, actually I have one other thing, but I can't remember what it was. But I missed the vacancy board appointment during our reorg meeting, and Doug Brent has agreed to be on the vacancy board. So that would be my recommendation for filling that position. He was on the vacancy board last year as well.
Can I make a motion then that we make a motion that he be accepted?
Okay,
Second?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Well, you had a short, what did I start talking about that you said we'll get around to it? Now I don't remember what it was.
Headlands.
Um,
Was it Headlands?
You wanted to talk
What
about
was it?
that?
Headlands?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I know what it was. Andrew explained to me, because he and I had a conversation, he knows probably the figures more than I do. We've had quite a conversation on social media about Penn Waste, about the cost going up, and I think people need to realize how much money were we losing on our Penn Waste contract prior, about,
In terms of the discount?
well, before we raised the price.
It's about 16K a year, I think, wasn't it?
It was more, was it that or more?
It was more than
Was it?
Yeah, we were receiving from residents less than what the bill was. So we just couldn't keep eating that. I think the last increase we had was 2013, am I correct? So as everybody sees, everything's been going up. We just had to sign a new contract with Penn Waste. They have new ownership. So, you know, we don't like to pass on increases, but we can't work just like anybody else. We can't work at a loss. And now we're kind of back to even. So it's not like the borough
We're
is
not
making a bunch of money
any-
off of this increase. This is,
Actually, the increase was mostly due to tipping fees, so it's really not even Penn Waste isn't really making more money. It's-
right. So I wanted people to know that, because there were quite a few complaints on that. And the water, you know, we've got a new water tank going in to the tune of what, how much is that?
0.3 mil.
Yeah, so, you know, it's, nothing's coming down, I'm sorry, but when you stop to look at it, it really isn't, I'll pay it, you know, for somebody to come pick
See
up
that,
my
you guys
waste.
don't have to, he's gonna do it.
No, I won't pay everybody's, I'm happy to pay, even though sometimes I only put my trash out once a week, once every 2 weeks. You know, it's something that I'm glad that we have the availability of.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Marcia Valley, New Freedom. Speaking of the water, I thought of this a while ago. We're getting water from York Water Company, and our water report on our water comes out. Do we get a water report on York Water? Is that?
We don't we probably would if we opened the valve, right, Donnie? I mean, it's not, we're not really using York water.
Well, no, we get 30,000 a day.
Well, yeah,
Comes in, but that's it, there's 30,000 gallons a day.
That's because what, that's the minimum
That's the minimum, yeah.
contractual obligation.
yeah.
And
We'd
I
have
guess
to-
we
we'd
had
have
to do that some time
we'd have to
ago
pay
in case
for
we
it.
ever had a dry spell. What would we do? So we hooked up to York Water, and there's a minimum.
Yeah. That's a good question, though. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen a York Water Company water report.
I would,
It's,
Interested
isn't
if
it on
they
our
offered
report how
one.
much we use?
Be interesting.
No, she's talking about like lead and
yeah.
Oh.
the chemical content of the
I
water.
mean,
Seeing that
yeah,
myself.
what's in their water?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if they have to, I mean, I could look into that and find out through like DEP if they have to give that to each municipality they give to.
Well, I'm sure they do,
That would be
yeah.
super.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have it on their website,
Yeah.
but, right.
That's a little, we'll look into it and get back to you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we can look at, like
Yeah.
Donnie said, we can contact DEP and find out what the regulation is if you do purchase water from another
Thank you.
supplier. What's their requirement to report on their findings, their standards?
Because there's all those ducks in the reservoir. I can't be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too much nitrogen.
Start getting feathers, then worry.
That's a
You
visual I
missed
don't
my
mind.
jokes, didn't
I got
it?
it.
You're glad to be back.
That's a good one. Quack, quack.
Police report, sir.
Southern Regional, I think you have all the information. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the actual reports themselves, incidents, hours, the incidents in New Freedom. We have from 12/5 to 1/1, we had 76 incidents in New Freedom. I have some very good news, though. They caught the arsonist.
Yeah, that is good news.
They caught him over in Lancaster. He had set a fire in someone's home, broke in. He had been breaking into cars, stealing sundry items, money, wallets, credit cards, anything he could find. Lock your doors, folks.
Yeah.
This was Lancaster, but I know we've had this same problem here in New Freedom. Lock your cars. Don't take valuables in the house or keep them where they can't be seen. Lancaster gets first dibs on this person. They will file to prosecute. He's $1 million bail. So I don't think we're gonna have to worry about him for a while. Then he will come to York County. I guess that'll go through the district attorney's office. And then he also has a warrant out of Maryland. So I think this will be going on for some time, and I don't think he'll be bothering us for quite a while. So I'm glad that our police put a lot of hours into that. They went over, investigated in Lancaster, and apparently he admitted to setting the fires in New Freedom while our officers spoke with him over there. So that's one good thing.
Where do you
that's-
live, Mayor?
Beg your pardon?
Where do you live?
Where did he live? I don't know if I really,
I didn't see anything on the
It was
actual,
in the newspaper.
he lived in New Freedom. Was a New Freedom resident. His family is New Freedom residents, and I feel bad for them, so it may come out in the paper, but I'm not willing to give that information, mainly because it's still under investigation. One other thing with the police department, I have to talk to you about IGA. IGA is just about complete. We have a red line draft of Amendment 3 that we are considering. I would like as many people as possibly can to please attend the next IGA meetings. The next one is the 15th at 6 o'clock right here. We have some things that we really need to look at. I think, Mr. President, I sent you a copy of the amendment, the amended draft. I know we had spoken to Bruce and asked for his input. With council's approval, I would like to send him a copy since he served on that committee for quite a number of years and was instrumental prior. So, and I don't know if everybody needs a copy of this. If you do, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's rather lengthy, but something we need to consider is the chair of the IGA would like to change how our PPUs are drafted. He would like,
Calculated.
or how they're calculated. He would like to use hours instead of incidents. I'll be honest with you, I've spoken to several people at the police department, and they're not in favor of it. This was something that occurred a number of years ago. And we really feel that hours aren't appropriate because that includes a lot of other time other than for particular incidents. We feel that if a resident calls for help, if we call for help, if they pull somebody over for a reason, those are incidents, and that's what we should be paying for. Not hours. Read the draft that I send you, and I think you'll understand. I think that's something that we need to take a look at when we vote to accept the new IGA proposal.
How would, that's in the new IGA? 'Cause I
It
don't-
is in the new IGA. Part of the other is instead of our time elements have changed. We have had a problem for the last several years with, I can't say the police department, but getting the police's budget to us in a timely fashion. It's ridiculous for us to get the budget in December when ours is finished in August or September, and the same with the other municipalities. Now, they must have their budget finalized by, I think it's September 31st, and approved by
30
the,
days.
the last day of September. And that gives us, as a council, time to approve it, send it back, give our comments. But that's something that we have put in the IGA. The other thing is, if somebody decides they want out, they must send a letter pulling out by August. Was it August?
That's a year in advance, though, isn't it? Like a
2 years in advance. They have to give it to us by August, and then they have 23 months, I think, until they can pull out. If they pull out, because we could not come up with, there's so many variables when it comes to what is owed, that we decided to just go with the number of PPUs that municipality has when they pull out, and we will do 25% the first year. In other words, if they just arbitrarily say it's $100,000, 25% the first year, they would pay us $25,000. The second and third year would be 10%, and then the last 2 years would be 50%. So that would come back to equal the 100%, or
Kim, if they're gonna use hours, they're still gonna use PPUs, they're just gonna use hours instead of
They're
incidents?
gonna use hours to decide, and
So
that's
how
gonna
they-
jack
like
everybody's.
everybody leaves from here. So if it takes you an hour or 20 minutes to get out of town, it's, you know, I mean,
That's, I asked that question today in a phone conversation with Darrell, who puts all these figures together, Officer Schmuck. And if they get a call for Stewartstown and they leave here, that hour, those hours it takes them to get to Stewartstown goes towards Stewartstown. It does not go to, say, patrol time or time in New Freedom. Same thing if they're in Stewartstown and they come to New Freedom. New Freedom is charged for that. There are several occasions that it's always worked out to everybody's benefit. Everybody has a carnival. We don't track hours for the carnival. New Freedom has one, Shrewsbury has one, Stewartstown has one, we just call it even. Those are the things we need to do. We need to let the chief of police run his department. And when it comes to patrol time, he knows where that patrol time needs to be based on what's going on in each municipality.
Chief doesn't agree with hours, does he?
No. He
I didn't
thinks
think he would.
things, and most of the other people that work with these numbers agree that we should keep it exactly the way it is. I trust them. It gets very involved when you're looking at hours and PPUs. I think maybe we do have a committee that looks at this, and I think maybe before we have any vote on the new IGA, we need to sit down, that committee needs to sit down and really go over it, discuss it so that we understand it. It's very complex, it's complicated.
I almost visualize like putting a punch clock at the border, and like you leave,
Yeah,
punch
that's,
your clock,
Right.
and you go into Stewart, and you punch your
Absolutely.
clock as you enter Stewart's,
Right.
you know. I mean, that would be almost
What we-
impossible for the officers to.
And Chief, what Chief has always done before, if we have patrol time, and he puts extra patrol time over in Glen Rock, because they've had something going on that they need it, maybe the next month he gives us a little extra. Okay, so it works out in the end, and that's why I say, let Chief operate his own department. Let him do what he thinks is good for everybody instead of micromanaging. That's another thing that's going into the IGA. Everybody comes to the mayor. If you've got a problem, you come to the mayor goes to the chief. He doesn't need 8 people here giving him a phone call. And multiply that times 5 municipalities, he wouldn't have time to do anything but be on the phone. So you'll see what a lot of the changes are. Erica has been there with me from day one with the IGA, so she's got a lot of, I'm gonna depend on her for some input and what her thoughts are also to get this changed. Our next meeting is, as I said, the 15th at 6 o'clock. Finance Committee then meets, we're already meeting for the Finance Committee. I'm on the Finance Committee this year, so I'm gonna do my best to, we're learning, there's a lot, believe me, there's a lot to learn when it comes to finance. Buck has agreed, even though he's retired completely now from politics, he's agreed to come in and sit and educate us.
Right.
Okay, so it's been very beneficial. It really has. It's.
Are you heading the, I guess I'm asking you too, you're heading the committee for the IGA review?
We all will, as a
Kim, you? I mean,
council.
it doesn't matter,
I mean,
we just need one point.
It's
Kim?
been the point of contact.
I'm on the IGA, so I have let them know that
I
I'm
mean, for New Freedom.
For New
I'm
Freedom?
not saying for them, for
No,
us.
no, no, for New Freedom, and I,
suggest you go ahead and add Bruce then for the IGA review.
review.
Yeah.
I would like him to review it and go over.
Question?
The meeting is the 15th of when?
February, sorry.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be tomorrow, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll double check.
It is.
It is, okay,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Has the committee, during the whole process, looked at the other two regional departments in the county to see how their intergovernmental agreements work? Because I'm pretty sure both of those bill in hours. I think so. Billing on incidents is a little different.
Well, it is different, but this was something, I guess, that Schmiel recommended back when they came up with PPUs. Am I correct, Bruce?
Well, Schmiel's experience up in northern region up there, where they instituted this idea of the PPUs, and they use the incidents to calculate the PPUs. The issue, and you may not favor this, Kim, but the issue with PPUs is, or incidents, is how much time does it take to serve an incident? If you look, the
average, I think, is 45 minutes.
The IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police, says that on a national average, an incident is 45 minutes. That only means for your patrol officers. That doesn't apply to follow-up in terms of detectives, court time, or anything like that. It's just, what does a patrol officer have to spend on an incident? And that whole idea was to basically figure out how to staff your patrol officers, not your support or anything else. And if you look at Schmiel's early reports that he gave to us, when he calculated the incidents, he came up and said, well, for patrol officers, you only need, I think it was like 5.85 officers. Well, we're not going to run a department with 5.85 officers. So the idea of using the incidents as a way of gauging how much support you need, probably isn't very good. Now, the IACP, if you take a look at their report, there's that average that everybody talks about, 45 minutes, but they also broke it down in terms of, I think it's like the type 1, type 2 crimes, what's a burglary response take, what does an assault response take, all of that, so that those numbers, they have them based on the type of crime as well. But it's my understanding that the IACP does not endorse the use of that anymore. If you look at what the Formula Review Committee did back in 2016, so we're going to go back 6 years, they looked at using just the hours. But the issue that everybody thought the hours initially were going to be for the hours that the officers spent on responding to incidents as well as patrol. And what the Formula Committee found out by about our second meeting was that in fact the department tracked the hours you put in to serve the citizens directly as well separately from the hours that were just on patrol. And what the Formula Committee then recommended was that you use the actual hours that were put in serving the citizens and just leave those patrol hours off. Now, if you look, you can go back and you get the reports. I've got some. I'll be happy to send you all some copies if anybody's interested.
And that's my contention, that we not include patrol hours.
Right.
Mike Shorkey's contention is we include patrol hours.
Right.
Patrol hours is something that the chief regulates. He dictates to his officers how many patrol hours a municipality is going to need so that it's evened out with the percentage of PPUs that each municipality has. It's kind of hard to really explain the internal workings of it. As a matter of fact,
he's actually using it, he's using the PPUs to allocate hours. patrol
Correct.
hours.
correct.
It seems like a smart thing to do. I mean, it's.
But if we do that, it's probably gonna cost New Freedom an extra $7,500,000 a year.
I would say, I wouldn't necessarily judge that on 1 year or whatever that is.
Well, it's a 3-year, we're using a 3-year average in the
We take a 3-year
IGA.
average, and
Running.
the concept of PPUs, although it's put in place up in northern New York, back when we were looking at this, then, whatever, what was it then, 4 years ago, I think it was 2017, 2018.
Yeah, at least.
I didn't like the idea of PPUs. The honest, and the reason is, you really don't know what you're buying when you're buying a PPU. And I created a little handout that I think I sent it to members of the council, and I'll be happy to let you have it. It's called, test, I made a little sheet called Test Your PPU IQ. And I hypothesized 2 police departments with different PPU rates and what you actually buy at the end. And you may find it enlightening, and when you get to the end, you may realize maybe this idea of PPUs isn't such a good way to buy stuff. And I do think that the hours are the right way to go, but based on the hours that you are demanding from the police department, separate out from the patrol. In addition, and I will give you a sheet, I've got some of them, the chief tracked and used to deliver a report at the police commission meetings, how many hours each community got, and how many hours that were in all the overhead. So he had it broken down by, who was on leave, who was on sick, bereavement, who was out on training, this, that, and the other thing. And so all of that was listed as well. So they kept a very detailed look at the hours over at the police department. They knew how to do it. And to sort of answer your question, I think that Andy, you had brought up earlier, the way it was explained to us, suppose the officer's, he's out doing a patrol, and maybe he's, riding through Shrewsbury, and he gets a call that something happened in Glen Rock. When he gets that call to come to the 911 center, and he says, I'm going to Glen Rock, at that moment, all his hours are charged to Glen Rock. Doesn't matter where he is.
Correct.
Whether he left the station here, or if he was on a patrol someplace, 911 contacts him, says, you're needed in Glen Rock, he responds. At that moment, while he's going, he's charging his hours to Glen Rock. And they kept that time like that. And so it seems to be a very good way to look at and see what your demand are, what the actual overhead hours are and how those were broken out, and then what the patrol time is. Interestingly enough, and the data is there if you care to see it, back when the Formula Committee looked at this stuff again 6 years ago, it turned out that the hours that were actually in the overhead category were about 40% of the total hours charged. That doesn't necessarily mean a good thing or a bad thing in my mind. It's just that a lot of people, I think, were surprised at what those numbers were, because if you read some of the DCED reports, I think a number that gets batted around in that is something like, you get like 1,750 hours or something like that from an officer, and we were only getting about 1,300. Now, it doesn't mean that, the organization is inefficient or anything, but there's a certain amount of stuff that, has to be done. For an example, if a car needs to be repaired, officers have to take that car over to the repair shop, it's got to get dropped off, somebody comes back. That's all things that you have to do to make your department work. But they were able to track all of that there, so you can see sort of what your efficiencies were if you care to even look at that.
Can I make a suggestion that what we do is, I don't want to take up a lot of council's time, that we have our committee meet and invite Bruce to join us, and we discuss this after you've had an opportunity to read the red line version.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can-
Bruce can certainly be a part of your committee.
Yeah, I would like for us to be able to discuss it. Plus, I don't know if you feel it's necessary that we have Daryl Schmuck is he Sergeant?
Yes.
Sergeant Schmuck has volunteered to come and kind of further explain how this works to council. If you would like him to be at our next council meeting, he has graciously said he would be willing to address council and what his recommendations are and
I-
why.
I think we can probably have a working group meeting and have him come and make a presentation to us.
Yeah,
It wouldn't necessarily have to be it wouldn't have to be all of council, it wouldn't have to be a council meeting, but,
and then the committee can make recommendations back to the council.
yeah. And then-
Why don't we do that rather than take up, would you be willing to meet
Sure.
with, I know you will, but I'll formally ask you. Thank you.
How many, what's our officer count right now?
14.
15?
14.
Is it 14 plus a detective, or does that include the detective?
That's everybody. That includes everybody. Yeah, 14.
Chief, too?
Jim, do you still have the quarter officer?
No,
No? Okay.
no.
Okay.
We have, I mean, if we get into a situation, we have somebody that we can bring in part-time. That's another thing that's some good news. Our officer, what's his name?
Dan Teague.
Sergeant.
Dan Teague is
Sergeant.
back now full-time. He's gotten a clearance to come back full-time. He's, somebody's been looking out for that gentleman, let me tell you.
He was on motorcycle patrol on Saturday.
Yeah,
So that was good to see him back.
It's wonderful to see him back, and that's really where a lot of overtime went last year between Dan and COVID, because we had a lot of exposures, and those guys, those officers had to quarantine. So you're gonna see some overtime in our figures, but thank you. I think that would help us to get an answer to that question, because that's shortly, we're looking at having a final maybe the end of March, early April, since we have to have that by, what did you say, September?
Yes, I think I did see him.
I think you said September, all right?
Manager's report? I'm sorry.
Can I add in?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
On top of Sergeant Teague's return, we also had our SRO officer, Hanson, who is up at Southern.
Yes.
Chief received a letter from a parent talking about her son who was on the wrong road, not doing his schooling, getting poor grades, not wanting to go to school, running with the wrong crowd, just a really desperate situation, and she was, really looking for answers. Officer Hanson invested time into this young man, counseled him, offered him guidance, support, everything that, SROs, can do and so forth, and be just shining light in this young boy's life. And the mother said that ever since Officer Hanson has invested time into this boy, he has made a 180. He has received all new friends, going to school, getting good grades. She can't believe the change in her son. And that just goes to a testament of our officer was one,
Oh, yeah.
and the impact that they can have with the students in our school system.
And he did receive an award for SRO of the Year.
Yeah, if you were like going to make an SRO, like pour all the ingredients in, he would be it. That's what you would get out of it.
Yep.
The other stuff.
One other thing I have to say with police is be aware that Glen Rock Council is having a town meeting
This Wednesday,
this Wednesday.
6:30.
6:30 prior to their regular council meeting, and it has to do with whether they decide to stay with the police department
Reviewing policing services.
or withdrawal. They do have all new, not all new, but a lot of new council members. Those council members seem to be very much in favor of our current police and their efforts within their community. But one of the council members has called for a town meeting. I'd encourage anybody that's interested to be there,
Absolutely. Attend.
support the police.
Okay.
That's basically all. Anything else I have,
Manager report?
In addition to the report tonight, hopefully everybody got their copy of the budget and directory for 2022. I'm not going to go through and read everything unless anybody has any questions. Just wanted to point out a couple items. As a reminder, the recreational study is available until February 18th. The last check was about 2 weeks ago, and at that point, we had about 100 people from New Freedom respond. So, good response. That's why we put out another Savvy Citizen alert. It's also on our website, direct link to that survey. So if you haven't taken that survey yet, please do so. It doesn't take much time to complete. One of the items that we're working through in the office is to sign, get everything in place to have residents sign up for an ACH withdrawal on the due date for utility payments. So this would be sewer, water, and refuse payments. Basically, it's, as I indicated there, a no-worry option. The bill will come pre-printed with ACH withdrawal and due date, do not pay. We initiate that transaction on our side and pull that money from the resident's indicated checking or savings account on the due date.
There's a fee for that?
There's no fee.
There's no fee on this one?
No fee.
There's no fee. Yeah. Oh, no, that's for credit or debit cards. That will stay. This will be a separate option.
So ACH will not have.
ACH will not have a
service.
fee to the resident.
That's great.
Auto check withdrawal.
Right, right. So it's a good option, eliminates issues with possibly the mail and a resident getting their bill, and we've all been there where you forget about a bill and forget to pay. This kind of eliminates that on both sides.
When did you say that'll be available?
We contacted the bank a couple weeks ago. They told us they needed 28 business days to make it happen. So we're still a couple weeks away. I would say late March till we're able to actually release the information and get everything set up. And obviously then it'll go with each billing cycle.
That's great.
Good option.
Yeah.
Who has to do all the administrative stuff to set it up? Is it
Basically,
you?
our billing software already has the module built into it. So once we have the bank's template of their text file, it's plug and play. So we'll be sending out letters to get residents to sign up. We'll go in the software, process everything, and then be able to initiate that transaction a couple days before the due date, so it hits actually on the due date.
This is new billing software?
No,
It's the same software?
same software, yeah. And there's no cost from the billing company to basically make sure that we're all aligned to move forward, because that's rolled into our annual service contract. One of the other things, just to point out, and that's later on the agenda, we basically did everything to set up for, to switch to the Intergovernmental Insurance Cooperative. That cooperative is made up of over 60 municipal organizations in Pennsylvania, all supplying health insurance benefits to over 2,100 employees. And basically what that does is allow that pool to purchase insurance at a cheaper rate. It spreads the risk out between all those members, enabling a cheaper rate. The other thing the Intergovernmental Insurance Cooperative does is it allows a member, in this case the borough, to say if you paid in $100,000 this year and your employees only had claims of $70,000, that $30,000 comes back to you the following year in the form of a rebate, less a 25% kind of take off the top to go into a stop loss fund for other members that might have higher claims. So on top of a cheaper rate, you also have the benefit of possibly getting a rebate if your claims are less than what you paid in.
That's what the SRPD uses for the, it's a consortium, yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been, I've always thought we should be doing that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what the
That's
approximate
very-
cost of this is yet?
Yeah, so basically at this point, we're, from what the current is, we'll save somewhere between $26,000 and $65,000 a year.
But what the actual yearly, I mean, what are we spending now?
Between all the departments, I don't have that, I think it's a little over 200,000 between all the departments.
That includes wastewater treatment plant,
Yeah.
So that's it.
which we are reimbursed half from Shrewsbury,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on a percentage basis, that's a very significant number.
50,000.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And when will
Thank
this
you.
enrollment be
March
complete?
1st.
March 1st. And is it,
Pending the approval tonight.
is it health, vision, dental, is it everything? I say you said health.
Yes, yeah, this will be a complete, this will be health, pharmacy, prescription, vision, dental. We also receive pricing for short-term disability, which we have now, long-term disability, accidental death and dismemberment, that whole policy. And that savings is about 10% per year.
There's no significant change to the benefits that the employees get?
No, we basically match the plans.
Great, that's great. Perfect.
And then the other item is obviously the street improvement project, which we can discuss under new business. That's it, unless anybody has any additional questions.
Knox box, have we started putting out?
Yep, we're about finished making sure that we have all the businesses
I know that's
in a
tough.
list, yeah. And then we have the letter drafted, so hopefully get that out within the next couple of weeks, and then basically work with the fire department to get those activated and installed and activated.
And we know who might have, I think it was residential apartments of 3 or more?
That's,
Because we don't have
it was,
a rental ordinance, so.
that was the difficult thing is commercial is one thing, but being able to identify the properties where there's multiple units and maybe, like you said, 2 or 3 units in a building, we still need to have one.
I think we had brought up, and I'd like to see that come along with a rental agreement.
Yeah.
Glen Rock has, I think I sent you a copy.
Well, that's on the list, we
Glen
have
Rock.
a couple people interested in the rental housing ordinance committee, so it's just a matter of.
Oh, that's right, because we had problems finding an extra, another person.
We'll talk about street lighting later.
I can talk about that.
Oh, I just wondered, was that a grant? Was that out of our?
That was funds that we, I think it was 10,000 that we allocated.
It was 11,000.
That was the
11,000.
cost was
Yeah.
11,000?
And that was
the
only
payback
because
was-
Med Ed looks at a fixture and gives it a useful life, I think of 15 or 20 years. So outside of that, if they've replaced that fixture, there was a cost to upgrade it. So the majority of the fixtures were eligible for a free upgrade to LED at no cost. But then when you look at, it doesn't really make sense to go down a street and do, five in a row and then skip one and then go, 2 or 3 more. It's the entire borough, Med Ed owned luminaries will all be switched to LED. And like Ryan said, the cost is a little over $11,000. So the payback, I think we figured out, is 2.5 years.
2.5 years is what you had on here.
Yeah.
You probably still have that
Hey,
paper.
council approved that in November, I think.
It might have been even before that. This process will take time.
Right.
It made it through the first, second phase, and now it's signed the paperwork to go back. So now it goes to the engineering department, I believe, to get it scheduled, and then we'll get an invoice that has to be paid. And
So it's how long does it take to change a light bulb, kind of a?
yeah, how many widgets?
Yeah.
But it'll be good for 15 to 20 years.
The LED, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the LEDs last longer.
And once
too.
those are done, I mean, it doesn't, the responsibility is still on Med Ed for that fixture,
Okay.
yeah.
There was an added benefit too, the fact that the light is whiter and it's a safety issue. It's a lot safer light for driving and for people walking and whatnot. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think.
If I remember correctly, there was a couple options that we had to choose from. Is that at a later time, or?
Based on that, we just kind of matched and made sure that whatever the fixture was, whether it was mercury vapor, sodium vapor, that it equated to the upgrade on the LED.
As far as the
The
lumen?
wattage.
Oh, the
Yeah.
wattage, okay,
Yeah.
the output, okay.
And on your wastewater,
Yep.
has the meeting that was previously canceled with Shrewsbury, has that been rescheduled?
Not at this point. So at the RK&K study, I guess we need to decide whether we want to schedule that meeting with the other member municipalities before we have the report back from RK&K or after.
Is that the Evoqua part of it though?
This is the feasibility study to make sure that the Evoqua system will work at the treatment.
Yeah, well, that's kind of important. Yeah, if it comes back and it doesn't work, there's no sense in proceeding with that. We'd have to come up with something else.
Correct.
And when is that due?
I don't want to,
Late March.
don't want to lose the momentum that we have. I agree, Philip, but what do you think?
What are the choices in that?
Well, we'd have to wait till late March if we want to make sure that the Evoqua system will work with our plant.
Is there a way we can meet with RKK and be a local rep and just before that, you know, they have an idea of what's coming, it's either gonna fly or it's not gonna fly before we get all excited about, you know, the
Yeah.
biomag ballast system.
Can we do that? And then have a meeting before?
The feasibility study does include a draft of the report to be reviewed, maybe I think 1 or 2 weeks before, and then they would provide the final based on our recommendations, so it's
Well,
not gonna gain much, but
Well, it actually probably would, because if they come back and they say that it'll work, and we meet before the final, then we could go to them and say, you know, this is what the municipalities have approved, and then going forward, we would know that we actually have, you know, it's a go, basically. Why don't we do that?
I'd be interested too, if there's any increase in capacity consistent with meeting those, you know, upgraded effluent limits by going with it, that's a ballasted system, you know, if we could squeeze out a few more gallons, 100,000, 200,000, then the argument is gonna be potentially with Shrewsbury, how many gallons do we get, how many gallons do you get, but I think there's an easy way to sort that out.
Yeah. I think we need to move forward because Kim and I had a discussion about the EDUs and what's available to people in Shrewsbury Borough. And you mind if I?
No, go ahead, and the township.
And the township, I mean.
That's the big problem
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, the big problem is in the township, but I mean, right now Shrewsbury Borough has probably 300, 400 EDUs. So even though we haven't done this upgrade to the plant, they still have about 300 to 400 EDUs that they could be giving out to people. So I don't think they're really hurting. I think that they could even sell them to Shrewsbury Township as long as they could get the effluent to the plant. So I don't think we're in a critical stage right now. I think as long as we keep moving forward and we get to a point in the next year where we could start gathering the funding to do the upgrade, I think we'd be okay.
One of the problems right now is, and Eric and I attend the Shrewsbury Borough Council meetings, they keep blaming New Freedom for not releasing EDUs to
I was trying to make it so you didn't have to say
I
that.
know, I don't care. It's not right, and
They want
it's
a number.
every 14 EDUs is all Shrewsbury, this
They want a
developer
And they have
is
a number
asking
what?
for.
How many EDUs?
Do they have?
That, they want a number from New Freedom, exactly how many?
Well, they certainly have 14.
Well, they have somewhere in excess of 400
They want
EDUs.
it, have you confirmed that with them?
It's in the prorated report. They know exactly what they
Sat here and
have.
talked
Yeah, I mean, there, we sat in the meeting and they know what they have.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
confuses me a little bit,
yeah.
because we,
I'm tired of us
Is that what they
getting
say?
blamed, New Freedom, for not releasing EDUs to a developer in Shrewsbury Township. That's losing money.
That's not what I've been told. What I've been told is they want to be, we said we would serve that developer. They said, no, we don't want you to serve that developer, we want to serve that developer.
Because initially I thought they didn't want
But
to.
they're
They didn't want
refusing to serve him, and he shows up at every meeting with a check in hand.
Right.
And they say, we can't do anything until we have a meeting with New Freedom, and they canceled it on the 25th.
Well, we had the initial meeting, and they know exactly how many EDUs. We
Yeah.
went through all those numbers.
Yeah, the bottom line is, there's 400 EDUs sitting in Shrewsbury Borough. They have attached those EDUs without cost to basically farms that are either in clean and green or ag preservation, which means that as long as it's an ag preservation, chances of it ever getting developed are about zero.
Sort of a way to
So-
hide EDUs.
Yeah, it's a way, they're in a bank, basically. And if all that they would have to do to give the developer in question the EDUs is to say, here they are, and we will accept the effluent. So there's really they need nothing whatsoever other than a chapter report updating, saying that they're now going to use these 14 EDUs. I mean, they do have to notify us that we're going to be getting water downstream, but, so, yeah. I mean, that's on the record, on tape, I mean, they can do that.
who's saying this at meetings? Are they not the ones that are involved with the meetings that we've been having? And they agreed to cancel
Yes,
the meeting.
they absolutely are.
They agreed to cancel the meeting on the 25th because we didn't really have anything.
The
of
information.
substance to bring back to the committee, so why waste everyone's time?
Well, they said we needed more time to get the information together.
Well, and
is what
Hopewell
they-
needed more
Well,
time to gather their numbers on
Right.
what they're projecting.
The
So-
the only information we need, I mean, you don't want to plan an upgrade to the plant and find out you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. You want to make sure that everything's going to work, that you have the capacity, or that you have the tank space, that you have the airflow. You know, those are all the things that this little study is going to tell us. So,
They're not talking
but
about.
even if you do nothing, they still have
They still have-
400 EDUs.
Right. Well, I just want you to know they keep blaming New Freedom.
I take exception.
Number of EDUs can change depending upon flow in any particular year, so it's not, you might have 400 one year, you might have 390. The next year, if you get a real wet spring, wet fall, it's, excuse me, something like that, so.
But it doesn't go to 200 or 120, it might
Hopefully.
fluctuate by 10 or 15 or something.
Has Hopewell participated in previous meetings recently?
I'm sorry?
Has Hopewell?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Hopewell was here, Shrewsbury Township was here. Yeah, everyone was and Shrewsbury Borough was here. Everyone was very excited about the fact that everyone was cooperating, I'm very, very much looking forward to this being a big success. It should, Shrewsbury, the chain, this upgrade should give Hopewell and Shrewsbury Township the EDUs that they need to develop the corridor and to develop their properties, so.
Hopewell's problem will be how they get it from there to here,
Yeah,
because they have to go through Shrewsbury system. So they'll have to work that out with Shrewsbury on how that's going to get accomplished and who pays for what.
there may be infrastructure updates required to the system too, but that happens. I mean, you're developing farmland, so.
But that'll be on their dollar, not New Freedom.
Right.
Marshall.
Does that help you out, Kim, for the?
Well, I think so. It's just, I feel sorry for the people that are, have a house being built and they can't move in because they can't get a occupancy use permit because there's no sewer.
Yeah, I agree.
And Shrewsbury won't give them the sewer.
I was gonna say, because the letter that I sent indicated that
there's capacity available at the plant. However, those EDUs need to come from Shrewsbury Borough Authority, and they need to work with Shrewsbury Borough Authority to transmit to
Well,
get the sewer to New Freedom's facility. It has nothing to do with New Freedom. We're
Yeah, it's
saying,
their authority.
yes, there's capacity.
You and
but-
I know that, but apparently they keep blaming.
But they were copied in
it
all
on
those
us.
letters.
Send them the tape.
I will.
Okay.
You had a question.
I just have a question, because has the problem with New Freedom? Is it Shrewsbury Township or Shrewsbury Borough? I'm hearing people say Shrewsbury Township, Shrewsbury Borough, and I just wanna just
Well,
understand.
right now, what's happening is, we've had a meeting with Shrewsbury Township, Shrewsbury Borough, Hopewell, and New Freedom. And we all got together, and what Hopewell went off to do was figure out how many EDUs they want. And Shrewsbury Township and Todd are figuring out how many EDUs they want.
Okay.
I think pretty much Shrewsbury Borough doesn't want any additional EDUs. They already have the 400 and plus that they have now. We don't need any more EDUs. So they're going to come back with how many they want. We estimate 600 for Hopewell, I think is what we said, and maybe 600 and 800 for Shrewsbury Township.
But
So
it's Shrewsbury who's saying that we need to give them EDUs, they don't have EDUs?
no,
Is that-
they have EDUs. They
Yeah.
right now are assigned to a property that really can't be developed. I don't know why. None of us know why.
And they don't know that they can unassign them.
Oh, yes, they know that.
And that's been brought up several times for ordinances, and they keep getting tabled.
Yeah. No, they absolutely know that. I mean, I'm not sure. And then what happens is, we keep getting blamed for that, and we're not doing anything. We're more than happy to accept whatever affluent they send to us.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think the original agreement was New Freedom owns the plant. Nobody else wanted to take responsibility for paying for the plant. It's New Freedom's plant. Shrewsbury was given or said how many EDUs they needed. They said, well, if Shrewsbury Township needs EDUs, we'll be happy to supply them, we'll have enough. That was the original agreement. Now, Shrewsbury Borough isn't willing, they're going back on their word that they would supply EDUs to Shrewsbury Township, when right now they have developers that need them, and we're under the impression, talking to New Freedom and the prior authority, that they were there.
They are there.
So
That's true.
it's,
That's true. What
Why don't we just
what he
sell
just
it
said
to-
was Shrewsbury Township also could have participated from the get-go, and they chose not to.
they thought they
said,
were
we're farmland, we don't want
farm.
to.
We'll just get them from Shrewsbury if they're.
But this
willing to
gives
get 'em.
everybody the opportunity to come back to the table and get what they need for their developmental needs. Mr. Solicitor.
I've been working with the manager on our new stormwater management ordinance, and going over that. It's 100 pages, so I'm working our way through that to make sure it meets all the requirements for the state. And the only other thing I'd like to announce is, I think some folks have signed up. We have a newly elected official seminar. It's also a refresher seminar on February 24th. The Outdoor Country Club will do a presentation, have a dinner. So if you've not signed up and you'd like to do so, please feel free to sign up on, we sent emails to everyone, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you. Engineers report for December and January. Anything you want to point out? Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Water system for December and January? wastewater system. I'd already covered. And zoning and code enforcement.
One thing I did notice on the code enforcement report, the compliance due date was NA.
If it's passed, we usually put in that we're still dealing with other issues, yeah, or that it's closed.
But it's still open, didn't they have an original deadline?
They would have, yes. Yeah, we can keep that on from now on.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Andrew, could I say something? This pertains to this. They're the McGraths that live up the street from me. They were for having junk or something in the backyard. And I wanted to say that maybe we be a little easy on it and give them a little time, because they had a death in the immediate family and they had COVID and so I mean, it may be why they're a little bit behind.
And that's a one man's junk is another man's treasure situation, I think, too.
Yeah.
Basketball hoops, we're doing okay with those, and we're gonna really start to enforce those.
Yeah, if they're remaining after the initial letters were sent, they will be removed.
Did you hear that? They'll be removed. Basketball hoops in the roads will be removed.
Any questions on land development? No, nothing's really changed. Okay. Recreation?
Two rec commission meetings have passed. The January 6th, not a whole lot going on. There was Sharon Boyle volunteered to be the treasurer. Everyone accepted the dates for their term limits. I can't remember what meeting it was now, I'm sorry. One member was resigning.
Was it Valerie?
Valerie, yes, thank you.
Valerie's
Which I think is later on in the meetings for this minute. I'm sorry, it was a long day today. The February meeting, the one big thing to note that there was some discussion about possibly moving the farmer's market down to a location closer to the bike trail, trying to get some additional foot traffic. Right now, the rec commission's of the opinion that they want to wait and talk to the fire hall about their chicken barbecue and if they'd be interested in doing it at a weekly frequency instead of a once a month. So I expect there'll be some more conversation around that next month.
Would the barbecue be at Orange Goodfellow, or at Freedom Green, or would the barbecue be at
The
Smartwoods?
barbecue would be at the fire station.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to them for holding that, but they're talking about moving the the farmer's market down there. But they'd like to have them coincide so that they can get additional traffic with the fire hall.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, we talked about that before. I mean, we've got, if we moved the farmer's market to Freedom Green, we'd be looking at the trains coming in and out. I realize it's an ideal spot, but it's not an ideal spot for parking or for people pulling in and pulling out.
Yep.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of pros, but definitely some cons to consider. Parking being the biggest one. Parking is definitely a premium down in that area. Like I said, I'll expect some more discussion about that at their next meeting.
I'm not sure what to say. I'm really not. I think, go ahead.
Didn't you meet with the fire, what was their decision on how often?
Well, the fire department is definitely not gonna do barbecues at Freedom Green. They're more than willing to help out if it's currently up at Smith Woods,
No, where it is, are they gonna?
where it is now.
Are they doing
Yeah.
it weekly going forward? Is that what they're, or is it once a
They
month?
still have some questions because they would like to have some approximation of the number of people that would be there, because they don't want to cook up a bunch of beef and ham and turkey and not sell it, and then what do they do with it? You know, whatever money they're gonna make, if they plan on 100 people, 150 people, and 50 show up, what do they do with the remainder of the food? They just lost money, not made money, on something that was to be for their benefit. So they still have a few questions before they'll get back to rec with a definite yes or no.
Do they have a timeline to figure that out?
Probably after the next rec meeting, when I ask that question.
I didn't know if they had like a, you know. we're gonna
No,
do this,
because it's
we're gonna
not gonna
do
happen
this,
till
so-
spring anyway. No matter what, it'll be, you know, the farmer's market usually opens, what, April?
I think so, yeah.
So,
I think that's what they've done in the past.
well, that's true.
I guess I hate the thought that they're gonna go through meetings and have a lot of discussions about having it at Freedom Green, and I don't see how council can approve that with the traffic situation,
What would we have to approve?
using Freedom Green.
We've approved Smith Woods before?
A long time ago. I mean, that was back.
Oh my, that's a long, long time.
Because originally they used to be down in a grassy area down by the train station.
Right.
And then they moved up there at some point. I don't know the time frame of when any of that happened.
I just think it's gonna, I mean, you're probably gonna have to get the chief in on a discussion, but I mean, I mean, right now, we've tabled, but we have on the table, you know, whether or not we wanna limit parking on South Front Street because of the train. And then we're gonna throw in, on top of that, people coming and going from the farmer's market. And then we're gonna try to move a barbecue down there. I mean, there's only so much that the roads and the parking can handle. And we already passed that. I just don't see it as being a safe or a good situation.
Why not Margie Goodfellow Park?
That would work. That would, on the grassy
Playground
area. Right, yeah.
somewhere in there.
I actually suggested that before. Why not?
Well, they did talk about that in the meeting.
They did.
They did talk about that in the rec meeting.
But still, where are people gonna park?
Yeah, go ahead.
They're already parked.
Is it not correct that Heritage takes care of the greens at Freedom Green?
Yeah, and they actually have in their minutes that they would have to get some kind of an approval from Heritage, but,
I can't imagine that they're gonna want trucks pulling on that grass.
yeah, I mean, they're not gonna want, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Pay for it.
On the grass.
Well, I mean, people are gonna have to park somewhere. I mean, if they park the vendor trucks along Railroad Alley there, where are the people gonna park?
They also mentioned reaching out to Crescent Industries about their parking lot across the street as a possibility for additional parking.
And the coffee
That's pretty far though from,
business would offer her parking or the vendors.
Yeah, but you have a carnival for a whole week down there, where they park then for the week. What's the difference? There's gotta be some parking down there, because you have a carnival that's there for a whole week.
well, the difference is, nobody likes it when the carnival's in town. I don't even think Kim likes having.
I can't park in front of my house. So, you know,
I-
luckily I don't get a citation for parking in my yard, which I'm not supposed to do, but I can't park anyplace else.
Yeah, nobody likes that, but now you're gonna do it every Saturday. You're gonna.
I don't think you're gonna have quite as much traffic as that, as what you have at the carnival.
If you add the train to it, you do. Right now, we literally have people parking at the end of South Front Street at an angle, and you actually have to go into the other lane, oncoming lane, to get around cars on South Front Street. It's just an accident waiting to happen. I mean, we keep pushing it and pushing it, you know. I mean, really what you need to do is put in, yeah, I mean, only we could tear a building down and put parking in. No, I didn't say that. But yeah, I mean, you just need to have, you need to have more parking. I just ask that, you know, that they consider that, because it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I guess out of the times that I've been up to the farmer's market in the past when they've had it, I've never really paid attention to how many cars are actually there.
When has the community center parking lot ever been filled for the farmer's market?
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever seen it.
I agree.
When they have
What they're
when
doing
the
is
chicken
trying to drum
barbecues
up,
going
trying to
on
drum
and the
up.
farmer's market at the
But
same time.
The people of New Freedom aren't gonna come out any more than they're already coming out, I would assume. And the majority of cars that would be there are already there for the train. They're trying to get the people that are already there. And I don't know that we're really pulling out that many more people out of their homes in New Freedom to drive down there.
Yeah,
I don't think
I think,
that's going to
I
be
think
a lot of
they're
business.
also looking for additional vendors, some of which I don't think would commit to coming to Smith Woods. But some would commit to at the location downtown.
They had 7, was that
And
right?
so-
They could confirm
So
7.
they're gonna wanna get more people, that's a better
But-
place.
But see, that's, see, but what you're saying is that right now, the community center parking lot isn't overflowing. But if you add 7 vendors and you get more people in there, then it is gonna, you know, you want it to grow. I mean, Andy and I have even talked about getting a portable sign to put up to advertise the, you know, there's things we could do to advertise and point people at Smith Woods.
Absolutely.
But if you grow it at Freedom Green, I just think it's gonna be, it's just.
I'm promoting Margie Goodfellow, I'm not promoting Freedom Green.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, I would probably go with on the grassy area, like behind the bandstand where the gravel is. That would be a good
The
area.
road arrow.
And people could still see that from the
This
train.
road here, you know, all parking plus the parking lot.
Yeah.
I can see their argument of you
And-
can't bring the people to them, they need to go to where the people are. We've paid how much money for this park, it's there to be utilized, let's utilize this.
Oh, I have no problem, I have no problem with Marge Goodfellow Park on that other end. Yeah, that'd be.
Well, where are those people gonna, where are the people that come to the farmer's market at Marge Goodfellow Park gonna park?
All along this street here,
What street?
right here, out front.
In front of your house.
And they're gonna, yeah, that's about right, and they're gonna, then I want a parking permit for my street.
Well, people are parking in this parking lot to walk over to the train, why wouldn't they park right over here to walk half the distance to
I
get
think
to
you
the
have to make
farmer's
sure
market?
they do, because I see people coming in to use the bandstand now, and I think they rent it out. Don't they rent the bandstand out in the grounds down there? But they think that because they're renting it, they can park 7 or 8 cars over on our new grass that's still settling, and they're doing donuts and when they're leaving.
Who's gonna be doing donuts in the grass?
The crazy people that rent the place and do it.
I know,
The
but
kids, I see them, I watch them. They've been arrested.
But are you afraid the vendors are gonna park on the grass?
Yes, not the vendors, the public is gonna park there to go to the market. And we don't, I don't think we want a bunch of cars
Well,
parking on the
we could put
grass.
up, we could put up chains and barricades along there. I don't think that's a problem. I would rather see it there than at Freedom Green. I
You know,
don't think we're
if
gonna have.
they work
parking.
something out maybe with the bank, but the bank's open Saturday morning, so they don't want people parking there.
No, the bank isn't.
Bank isn't open.
No.
Bank isn't.
People's
open
Bank isn't open
Saturday.
in the morning?
Not Saturday.
No?
Nope.
Then they could.
Well, there you go.
But they can park right here in High Street. We just talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And they can park
And
maybe
then
at
there's that
Crescent.
gravel,
Yeah.
right behind People's Bank, that gravel
Mhm.
area.
Right.
You know, I mean.
Yeah,
you
I
stay
think
where
that
you
would
are
be,
with the-
that would be a lot easier than
Yep.
Freedom Green.
you know.
Yeah, that would be.
I mean, it even says better at Market with all the parking a little before here.
You have the music people down here, they will park just right around the grass spot, right where the playground alley is. There was nobody out here parked.
That's true, there is a lot, yeah, there's a lot of
people
parking
over
right there.
so There's plenty of parking there.
Off the playground alley, walk down the steps and they're right there at the market.
Just like
Yeah.
the
Good
Keeper's
idea.
Carnival.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal. I mean, if you could, I think that would be,
Having it up at the bandstand end, not.
yeah, you'd have the whole playground street where you could park, where we park during the carnival time. You park in at an angle, I mean, that would give you more than enough parking.
And you got that shady area, you got a building they could do their vending.
So that's what I would suggest.
And they bring their tents, and they don't use stakes, they use sandbags, so.
Yeah.
But they have a big building there already if they want to use part of it, so that they were complaining about the shade.
Yeah, the shade I don't think is as much, should be as much for the vendors. They were saying, well, they bring their own canopies and tents, and it's not the matter of that. It's a matter of the 70, 80-year-olds and
Well, there-
95
You know, that's actually perfect, because rec could open up the
Absolutely.
sheds, the cook shacks, and people could sell out of there too.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So, yeah, it would take away some of the tents, that they would have to put up. So that would be an ideal spot, I think.
All right, well, I'll bring it up to them. So like I said, they still need to decide if they're gonna do anything with the fire hall. That's, I think, the question that they need to answer first.
I think people also need to realize that this whole thing started with somebody coming in from Glen Rock pitching a fit
It
because,
doesn't matter where they're from, it's another vendor.
well, she came in and was gonna, with a petition, without even asking the rec
Yeah,
commission
and she
anything
acknowledged
about
that she
it.
went
She
about
got
it
a
the wrong way,
petition
she
together.
apologized for it.
Well, she did, once she realized.
Brings up another thing that I brought up a year or so ago about handicapped access for that
Yeah.
park during
Yep.
carnival. When I was down there watching, people in walkers, wheelchairs, so forth. How is that being addressed, or has been addressed, or where has that kind of went from
Yeah, it
then?
hasn't,
Yeah,
well,
we
you
had-
started to.
We
do
had
it.
Warehouse look at proposals and different options. And, what's the best scenario? And we just need to look at a complete rehab of the whole area and design. So they proposed a couple different options, and we have those. We can discuss that going forward.
What about any of our ARPA money, because that would be improvements for handicap access and so forth? Can any of that money be used for this?
Well, the first allocation is completely, it's not spent, but it's, the funds received, the first allocation is allocated already.
Yeah.
Okay.
To mostly infrastructure projects. Now, supposedly, the second allocation is coming in June, the second round of funding, which would be the other 50%. But there's a reason we put zero in the budget, because that's not, it's not guaranteed. I mean, he said it's coming, but, right. Could
If
it be
it
used?
does, can we earmark something to complete this, or, because I think it's important for our citizens and our residents to be able to use the park for one, and when we do have car shows or carnivals or bands, you've got bands coming up this summer, how are these people, safely getting to these events?
There's talk about moving the gravel out and putting grass in, right? I mean, to me, that would make perfect sense. you can get across that.
Is there input?
Just say that again, Dave?
Take the gravel out, you can't get across the gravel if you have
Yeah,
any
the
kind of
gravel's
filter,
terrible.
or
Well,
anything in
that's
there,
what
put,
we're saying.
you know, some kind of grass or something.
Yeah. Well, we can review the,
Yeah, I would have to
plans.
clarify, I mean, the allocation was pretty specific, and then I know the final rule came out, but that was more on revenue replacement
Well,
than.
they really loosened it, they widened it recently.
Right, the first 10 million is considered to be from lost revenue, so
Right.
there are no restrictions on it.
yeah.
So, yeah, you, obviously we want to
I
make
would-
sure, but.
Find it hard they would say no to something like this, to whack you for it.
Yeah,
Were there any costs associated with the engineering studies?
No, they kind of just took an aerial shot and then took some measurements, and it was very minimal.
When is the second allocation due in?
June.
June. Can we make sure like this gets on like the May agenda at least?
Oh, we
to
can
kind
bring
of
it up.
Bring it up?
I can have warehouse update, you know, the drawings and things, we can discuss it in February, or, sorry, March.
March?
Yeah, that's
They can probably price it too. even.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Great.
I mean, it's important.
How far into the park will they go?
I guess that's what's.
Well, there's some talk that if we start putting in, you know, if we start making the park ADA compliant, then we would also have to make the cook shacks ADA compliant. We'd have to put wider doorways in. It almost,
Once you create an accessible route to a
Yeah.
building, now that building has to be accessible.
right, which almost means you should probably think about tearing buildings down and building new, so.
Oh, jeez.
Well, you're-
That's,
and you're-
that
well, I mean,
was the proposal,
I mean,
because
yeah,
until
it's-
you look at renovating those buildings, and even the pavilion, or the bandstand, that's not ADA compliant.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, I use a cane and sometimes a wheelchair, and I am handicapped, and I really wouldn't expect somebody to redo a park so that I could get there. I mean, I just want it, I mean, you're talking about, I would just ballpark it, 400,000, probably easily,
I think
if you went the whole way with it.
If you created a new building and with a parking lot that was fully compliant with updated codes and everything, yeah, at
Yeah.
least.
Even if you're saying grass, even if we remove the gravel and just put the grass in there to make it where they could safely get there.
Yeah, and I like that idea, I really do, but once you go down that road and you start making it, you know, but I would do that. That could be done just by Public Works, doing, you know, taking out the gravel with a backhoe and planting grass. I think that's
Why does
not.
planting grass have to be attached to making it ADA compliant? Are we just planting grass because we don't?
Well,
want
right, that's what I'm
dirt
saying.
coming out,
Exactly.
whatever else?
Yeah, then we
That's
don't
what I'm
have to
saying,
tear
just
up
have
all the
Public
cook
Works go
shacks.
in. Right, I agree with that, yeah. That could be done with little problem.
Would that make it easier, Lida, just to have grass
Grass?
instead of the gravel? Because I know a wheelchair and gravel,
Let's get a.
Yeah,
would that work for?
Yeah.
I think, what really you need is some handicap parking.
Well, that's another thing.
I mean, there's no way she can walk from up on this street down there.
What we tried to do with the concerts is we just opened the gate.
Yeah, that was,
And we just
that
let
was
you
wonderful.
drive, I mean,
That was
that's,
wonderful.
yeah, so I mean, and that, you know, that is in itself a kind of a form of, I mean, I drove over, so, and it got me there, so I didn't have to walk across, you know, so I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what you do, you try to do as many things as you can that are low cost or no cost, so.
Right where you enter there, like right behind the bank, but once you're onto the park,
Right.
that area right there, none of that could be like designated as handicap parking?
It is, there is one spot there, they could make more.
Or could they make more?
Yeah, I agree, we could make more there, yeah. We could probably easily get 3 or 4 handicap spots in there.
Now, is that something that we have to talk to the rec council about, because they're in charge of the parks and all of that, or is that something that we just?
That's parking, that's parking, we could just do it.
How can
But you put a parking pad in, you can't put stone on the other side, that doesn't.
Right, the stone has
So
to
you-
go away.
And put grass.
Right.
Okay.
What?
I think the grass could create some issues. Obviously, there's grass there now, but, obviously you don't wanna create any, mud hole or anything. and
Oh,
we
yeah,
Make sure
yeah.
we have proper drainage and everything else. So,
Yeah. Well, why don't you get them to update the drawings, let's have a discussion, put it on the agenda for even next month, and
Yeah.
we can spend some time on it. And we'll just figure out what's a smart thing to do. But I do agree with not trying to, make paths wherever we can, because once we start down that road, we're spending a lot of money.
I mean, that held up the original part of the park, once we had to go ADA compliant down there.
Yeah.
You know, that was a nightmare. And that cost us a lot of extra money.
Well, that's why that turnaround is down there for to pull in, and drop people off.
You mentioned the buildings, are these buildings in a disarray that haven't had
Those buildings will be there way longer.
makeup?
I won't say after I'm gone, but after you're gone, those.
But so, I mean, there's nothing pressing that might, if we don't do this roof in the next 2 years, the whole building's gotta come down
They've all
because it
been,
hasn't been
just been
maintained.
redone.
Yeah, they're all in good shape.
What do you say?
Because they're not
Just
ADA
accessibility
compliant.
wise.
Yeah, there's no way you would get a wheelchair through the door.
Okay, other than that, they are in good structural repair.
They are.
Okay.
Why would you have to get a wheelchair through the door? Because only employees or people working there.
What if somebody
What
is
if-
handy, what if I wanna work?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
What if I wanna get my wheelchair
He wants
through
to
there?
make
If you're gonna have
If you're
it,
not working there, you.
And
not
but
gonna-
it still has to be there. It's a
Yeah.
public
so has to
building.
be, it's a public building.
All right.
Restrooms have to be accessible.
We don't have accessible restrooms down there now.
All right, I think,
Right, because they don't exist, but we do, whenever we have like a concert, we have a
Bring 'em
handicap
in.
porta
Porta
potty.
potty, okay.
all right,
Did you have anything else, Ryan?
just pickleball still going. They're getting good participation along with, they're gonna be starting the winter tennis program all over the community center.
As a warning, I've been approached by a number of people about pickleball, and they really would like to have either the tennis courts lined, or one of the tennis courts lined, or some place for them to play pickleball. And it is a growing sport, and as Inga knows, it's very, very, very popular, and even she and I could probably play it with no problem. So, yeah, and I think we need to put it back on the agenda, and I think we need to talk about finding an outdoor home for pickleball.
If we have an indoor home, why do you need an outdoor home?
Because people want to play outdoors, they want to be
It's
out in the
nice to get
sunshine.
fresh air.
Who wants to be out inside?
Yeah, it's nice to get fresh air, springtime.
Yeah.
Makes you
So-
feel young.
I know Mary Ann doesn't want the tennis courts touched, but I think we really need to do something for the people, others. I mean, we're an aging population, it's just a fact. I
Wasn't
mean,
there talk about having a pad built at one of the other parks?
I'm sorry?
Was there
Yeah,
talk about a pad being
Yep,
built
it
at one
was.
of
They
the
had
other
to
parks?
raise-
Well, we can. I mean, we had a very good price really for a pad that would house a number of pickleball courts. It was like $12K
Yeah.
from Ross Paving. I just went out and got an estimate. And it
Well,
would
now
be
you-
designed such that it would have the proper drainage and very slight flow, so that you could play.
That was up off of Washington, right?
It doesn't have to be there, it could be wherever. I mean, you
Where
could,
we at park?
But didn't they have
or
to
you
raise
could,
the
it just
funds?
needs to be on a flat spot that's 30 by 60 or
Well,
something.
Burnell, do you still have all all that information about the pickleball that we checked on?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so I don't want to violate anything. I just
Oh.
wanted, it was kind of a warning that it's,
Oh,
we'll put it on next month's agenda.
But you didn't throw it away?
Mm-mm.
Because I have it somewhere.
Okay, there you go. So we could, we could probably come up with the 12K,
Yeah,
So I'd like to talk about it again, that's all I'm trying to say.
good, wonderful.
So maybe put it on the agenda for next month, we can talk about it with the park.
all right, yep, that was all I had.
Hmm?
I'm good.
Okay. Sesquicentennial, did I pronounce it correctly?
Sesquicentennial, yes. I finally got my team pretty well together. I got Myra, who made that, or set up that nice parade at Christmas. She's on my team. I'm working with let's see, I got a fellow by the name of Ken Schaefer, and he does designing, and we can use him for different types of advertising, things like T-shirts or whatever. And also Donna Peace, she's going to work with me. And then I got Denise Wilderson to do advertising. I'll tell you what, she might be my wife, but I have to admit that when it comes to advertising, she's good. The only thing I can do is talk, but she can do the advertising.
Maybe you should get her to advertise for the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I'll talk to her and see, because I'll tell you, anything that we can do to promote things in New Freedom, I mean, we're all for that, because my wife was born here, so I was going to say she even has more of an interest than I do, and I've been here since '73, so. But yes, we're trying to we're looking at things now that what other communities did for the sesquicentennial, some of the things that we did in our centennial, different things that we can find that'll work. You know what I mean? Because times have changed a little since '73, and some of the things aren't going to be as easy to do and may not be worthwhile doing because people just don't want to. But we want to try to have a nice group of things for the year. And I'll tell you what, we're going to do our best to try to make it as nice a sesquicentennial celebration as we can. And that's why I got Myra for the parade, because we have to look at all the things. We're thinking about having two together, but that doesn't work so well. If we can have a nice parade, I mean, there's a lot of places and a lot of churches and things in New Freedom, so I think we'd have another nice, and being she's proved she can do it so well, I'm going to say that, you know?
Don't forget to pull NCR into the railroad and.
Yes, I did forget that.
And
Thanks,
also
Andy.
rec, you know,
Yep.
be involved.
Because it's going to, because I'll have to talk to all of the different, because I think if we all pull together, we can get it done. Because one thing I don't ever want to try to do, I learned a lesson on this, you don't want to try to manage everything yourself and do everything, because then it turns into a mess and it never turns out right. But that's where we stand so far.
Does Denise have one of the books from the '73?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I have one.
And also there have been people, if anybody that's here, if they come across photographs that were taken during the centennial, if I'd like to see some of them, because it'll give me some general idea of what seemed to be good and what didn't, you know.
I think everything was great.
It was, because I was here.
Fantastic.
I had a picture, I do have a picture of myself and Denise and her whole family and that down at right across from Hartenstein's. And we have that, but I mean, I'd like to have some of the other ones, because there were other things that went on.
Every day for a whole week.
Yeah, that's the thing also we want to find out. Maybe I should ask the people whether they think we should have different things during the year, or whether have a week of different things. Because nowadays people, back then, doing things in a week worked out well, but I don't know, nowadays people do different, they work different,
Back then, it was mostly people that lived here in New Freedom.
Yeah.
And had been here.
Yeah, now we have people that.
Yeah, now we
really,
have people that could care less.
Yep. And you talk about the brickyard in New Freedom, and nobody gets too excited.
So Frank Zeller's got a bunch of stuff done in his barber shop too.
Yeah, Frankie, yeah.
He may be even interested in working with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because anybody that I can use, anybody that has ideas and things, I mean, I'm open to suggestions, you know what I mean? Because I don't know everything, and
Do you know the month that you're looking to have this?
well, that's one thing we're gonna start to discuss. We're gonna have a meeting when we get together.
It's a year away, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And because we have to try to figure when we would want to have a parade, when would be a good, but we also want to make sure it's either on or after the incorporation day.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
I don't have to find, I don't know exactly what day
You
it
can have a
is.
birthday party, it's not the birthday.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, the ordinance establishing residential parking, I think we tabled that, and we decided we were gonna wait and see what happens in the spring, right? So we're gonna, is that still what everyone?
I have another thing on committees.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
York Adams Tax Bureau.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So I went to the reorganization meeting for the York Adams Tax Bureau Board of Directors and the Tax Committee. 2 weeks ago, they had a quorum for both of them, got things underway, but one of the things that I discovered, I mean, apparently they're running that operation pretty well because they make money when they have to go after people's things, and we get it back here. So I don't know if that's something that you plan in the budget, or we get it every year.
Yeah, we don't really budget for unallocated money. That's just something you get based on a percentage of all the member municipalities in York Adams Tax Bureau.
But they have like last year, they had $900,000 they sent back to the borough and the rest of the township and everything in the county.
You don't have to ask for it, right? It's just prorated
It
back.
comes back. I mean, I figured they'd contact the managers or something like that.
They collect and withhold at a 2% rate for their expenses, and then at the end of the year, I think we collected a 1.34 or 1.4 was the actual expense ratio. So the difference between what they withheld for collections and then what they actually collected at, they send back to municipalities, school districts, and take care of that.
Well, anyway, the other thing is, I mean, there's a lot of people that go to that, and we had a bunch of people online and a lot of people there too. So there's, before and during the thing, there's a lot of talk back and forth about common issues. I mean, I don't know if that kind of a thing exists outside of the York Adams Tax Bureau among the municipalities, but to me, it was productive to see what other people are doing. That's it.
Thanks, Derek. Which I think brings us to new business. Traffic study on Dickinson Court.
So this was a study I had initiated with TRG, basically to look at the section of Dickinson Court after we received multiple complaints regarding parking on both sides of the street. Right now, there is permitted parking on both sides as indicated in the traffic study. We received complaints from Penn Waste about having difficulty getting the trash truck down the road. We had a school bus that hit a mirror a couple weeks before this study was done. And it's also difficult for us to remove snow during, obviously, snowstorms because of parking on both sides. So as you can see, the recommendation from this traffic study is that one side of the road be posted no parking moving forward. They really basically left it up to the borough to decide which section would be posted no parking.
Section or side?
I'm sorry, side. Which side would be posted no parking? That would be up to the council to make that determination. So I did throw in just an aerial shot of Dickinson Court, so you can get your bearings there on the location.
Don't you really just have the same issue like right here across the street?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't this throughout our
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
but
say,
that, this is, Dickinson is really, because there's a guy that parks almost a tractor trailer in front of his house, and there's a truck on the other side of the street. I can hardly get my car through without, you know, a couple of inches away from.
That tractor
Hey.
trailer should be parked on the street.
It's a
Okay.
box truck.
Well, it's, yeah, it's a
Um,
big box truck.
I'd have to measure, but my assumption is it might be a little wider out here.
Yeah, it is.
Than 25.
My husband uses this and I can't stand it. You gotta go off to the side and find your way through.
I would think probably the east side of Dickinson. Otherwise, that guy with the box truck's gonna park in front of the people's house across the street. At least that way he can park in front of his own house and not
What
bother
if you
anybody.
alternated it, would that be a bad thing? That way,
Alternated how?
well, you know, like how in New York City, they have parking on even days, or like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday on the other side. Is that a bad idea?
That's due to
Might be
cleaning,
bad.
that's
Yeah,
usually due to cleaning.
Just do the street cleaning, but then it gives people the opportunity to park in front of their own house. That's the only thing I was thinking.
Well, the traffic study has to be based on safety reasons, so either you have it on one side or the other side. You can't really alter, it's not for parking availability or convenience, it's because the traffic engineer has said it's a dangerous condition. So it's either, that's why it's typically done one side or the other.
just, what would be the frequency of the signs required? Like every so many, every 30 feet, 40, do you know off the top of your head?
It's usually one per block. In this case,
It's pretty long.
I mean, I would say, I'd have to look at the publication for what the spacing is, but I can't imagine you would need more than 4 or 5 along that stretch.
Yeah.
What do we have up in Washington? Washington on the sides.
I mean, they're posted on the one side.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought they were pretty close together.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. I know on our street, if somebody parks this close to the mailbox, you get no mail. So what side of the street are the mailboxes on? Because you don't want people parking there, because we'll never get mail.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I bet they're on,
I have one
I'll
every
bet
now
you're
and
on
then.
both
I bet they're on both sides.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't see mailboxes.
You can see that from there.
Just shut my.
No, just wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody go to Google Earth quick.
You can't see mailboxes.
I'm just saying the
No,
layout.
I
I
can't.
can see mailboxes in front of my house on Google Earth.
Oh, yeah, Google Earth.
They are on both sides.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was,
The risk you run is now you know you have a safety issue potentially. So once you're aware of a safety issue and you decide not to address it, and someone gets injured due to that safety issue, you notice, so you lose some of your sovereign immunity.
How do those residents now get their mail?
I
don't know,
Well, New Freedom probably every other
They
day.
can still,
But all the parking, say this side's no parking, and everybody parks on
Everyone
this
park on the
side.
other side.
And now everybody that's got their mailboxes, they don't get mail. 'cause now
yeah, but you
everybody-
can't, you'd have to get the post office
You
involved
could move
with
mailboxes.
that, right?
you can't block, you can't park.
Is there an ordinance that says you can't park in front of a mailbox?
That's gotta be.
You think?
I don't know if it is or not.
Okay, I'm wondering that too.
Well, I mean, there should be, if there isn't, there should be. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna get your mail.
Probably be in the vehicle code.
It's vehicle code.
What about, I guess, some input from people on Dickinson Court? Do they have preference? I mean, I don't-
Probably
I don't-
anyone. Don't park
Yeah,
in
at
front.
this point
Don't do it on the other, do it on the other side of the street from
Yeah,
your
I
house.
was gonna say, it's, everything's fine until it's in front of my house.
Yeah.
But- And then does that Wilson Avenue coming in, because really that's the only street that comes into Dickinson, does that in any way, shape or form play into that?
Well, you shouldn't park, I mean, there shouldn't be parking within so many feet of.
Well, yeah, because you're supposed to have a line of sight and everything, but I mean,
Stop sign is 30 feet, 20 feet.
does that play into, like, you should have it only on the other side then?
That might be a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Usually your traffic study will tell you which side of the street.
That's, yeah, I was kind of.
Most traffic studies recommend one side or the other side of the street.
Well, if you're turning left or right off of Wilson, then, although they can get out another way, but if you're turning left or right, you'd want the people parked on the other side of the street opposite, so you can see on both sides. So it would be safer if you, that's actually probably your answer. If you're gonna make one side no parking, it should be the side that has Wilson, or the Wilson Street side of the, that should be the no parking
From the
side.
perspective, you don't do anything, there's probably little liability here because it's not a situation where someone's gonna get killed because,
25 mile an hour.
right, you're not parked there. It's not like there's a stop intersection you don't know about or you
Yeah.
take down a stop sign or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That side has the least amount of homes, you're on the other side.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
People figure it out.
Public or private driveway within 15 feet of a hydrant.
Right.
You're probably not gonna have enough parking.
I don't know that it necessarily says, it doesn't say mailboxes. I don't think it does. That's a USPS rule that they won't pull in. They have to have so much room for it to pull in.
Yeah.
The rule. What is that?
So now if they have a party.
Where do they park?
Yeah,
exactly.
We're having a birthday party for little Johnny, where's everybody parking?
I think I would recommend taking no action. That's what I would recommend.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second,
Because I'll tell you what, that's.
make the motion, I guess.
I think
Who did
you all
we had a
I
first
think-
and a second. Who did the first and the second?
Well, I don't think you need to do a motion because you're not doing,
Yeah.
only unless you're moving something forward, do you do
Okay.
anything.
I would suggest that members of the council drive up there.
I have.
I have.
I have too, and I could hardly get through.
Well, I've been up there too. That's where Ed Malinsky used to live.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I know it's narrow, but how are you going to tell people that you can only park on, I mean, the only way you could legitimately do it is if everyone moved their mailboxes to the other side of the street. That would work. But if you're gonna leave the mailboxes up and the driveway's there too, I mean, you can't park within so many feet of a driveway. You can't park in, you know, you literally can't park in front of a mailbox, so no one will get their mail at all in New Freedom, which is becoming the norm. But, yeah, so I'm thinking, you move all the mailboxes to the other side of the street.
But then why don't people on Campbell Road do that? My goodness.
Oh, I
Right
know.
across that
Yeah.
road?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, the newer homes, they're specifying where you put your mailbox.
Yeah.
So in Polar Point, one of our streets, I don't know why it's not consistent
The post
across
office
the whole
was-
neighborhood, but we do have one of the streets that have a pole on one side.
The newer developments,
Not my street.
not have centralized.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea.
You don't put on.
Probably went to put in a mailbox post and didn't want it.
Yeah,
Don't get me started.
that's
Yeah.
US.
All right, well, that's my suggestion, but I don't know.
Did you hear what the solicitor said? They could even put like a cluster mailbox at one
No,
location.
that's what a lot of the cluster, the
And
newer
when you pull
developments.
in, you
US
open,
Postal
Yeah,
Service
that-
requires.
People on Dickinson aren't
That's
gonna
not
go
gonna
for
do
that.
that
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's either that or they don't, they go to the post office and pick it up.
I think they would have, I think the choices are move all the mailboxes to the other side of the street, opposite Wilson. And then, and then you can make parking opposite, or.
Is
no,
there,
you wanna
is
do it
there
the other
right
way.
of way?
On the Wilson side, and then, but no parking on opposite.
Yeah, there's no
Is
sidewalks
there enough
there.
right of way for them to put a mailbox across the street, or is it on someone else's property?
It's on somebody else's property because there's no sidewalks there.
I just don't know.
Well, but the right,
There's always a
what
right
he's
of
saying is, does right of way go
Far enough back.
far enough back?
Probably 50 foot.
Sure it would.
You think I said 20, what, 20?
It's 20, the
25.
cart path is 25.
If it's 20, if it's 50 feet, so it's, you know, 25
I'd
on
be
each
surprised,
side of the
you
center.
think that's 50 feet?
Well, you know, when that street was done, I'll bet you they dedicated 50. I'm gonna guess.
All right, so what do we wanna do?
Just say, I need direction, so when residents call in, what I'm to tell
Why
them.
not? Why not part Sliders?
Because the other, I have to
No,
agree with
we're
Jared.
looking into
Well,
They come to your
it
house,
started with
you get
complaints
a
about
little
garbage.
party or something.
They're actually not.
Not everyone's all at one time, really.
No, not
That's-
Hills, but
that's
it's Slider
residents are
Estates.
Not parking in front
Slider
of
Estates
the
ends at
neighbor's house
center.
across the
That one.
street.
Well, where is-
But their
and
house can take
Dickinson
kids
is
up to,
up.
Why,
Yeah.
Main
why don't
Street
they finish
Center.
with the
Oh,
children of?
well, it's where the school.
We don't have any input on that.
Yeah, I think they were taking them up.
Dickinson,
No,
yeah,
Dickinson.
they're shopping Dickinson Court, which is out Main Street. Yeah.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wait until the next meeting to make a decision. We're gonna table it. Everybody can go look at Dickinson. I think I might even talk to, if there's anyone out, or, I think I might talk to a resident or two.
So is it the
Because I
residents
think-
or is it the school or the trash?
Just pay past
How many
Dickmeyer's
years?
I mean, if the bus broke in here, I
We
mean,
had
We couldn't, yeah.
two
we have
separate
to-
residents
we have to-
call.
No trucks are
Yeah.
allowed on that street.
And then, well, then one.
so you had two residents call. Which side of the street? Okay. All right, so we'll talk about that at the next meeting. Okay, we have the bid for the street improvement project. The low bid with alternatives 1 and 2 from Kinsley. And the total of the bid is $673,035.35 for the 2022 street improvement project. So that's all the projects. Or just-
Just not alternate 3, which is Rutledge.
Right. No Rutledge, right. Does anyone have any questions on the bid?
And this 606 fee came from,
That's the base bid.
that's the
Yep.
base bid. That's funding money, grant money,
Oh.
citizens.
I'm sorry, yeah, that is, 400,000 of that is liquid fuels funds from the state. So liquid fuels is basically your gas tax money. And then the balance was budgeted out of the general fund.
And I don't believe that alternate number 3 was recommended as Rutledge Road, but I just want to make a point that if it is at a later date, that the cost on the base, the bid form is different from the cost on the bid tab by $325 difference. Yep, so here they have 70,849, and here they have 70,524.
They might just use the numbers.
Typo.
It goes down to the additional mobilization costs. One page says 2,530, the other page says 2,205. So, I drove all these streets today, kind of looking at them, and seems they're cracked, you know, they have cracks, and then they have the tar they fill that with.
Crack sealer.
Crack sealer. Are these the worst streets in New Freedom? I mean, there were no potholes, no, dips, I mean, it was just mostly the cracking that a layman can see.
Yeah, this was basically, we had Public Works put together a pretty extensive list and then realized that that was way over budget. So we cut it down and then looked at that and then cut it down again.
Okay.
And then basically put alternates 1, 2, and 3 in to give us the ability on top of the base bid to say, okay, well, it came in way below, we can add a couple more and still be within budget. But yeah, these were evaluated after making the cut 3 times, basically. And this is just to try to get ahead, because there wasn't paving done for a couple of years, so it's to get under a program now to grab those ones that were knocked out in the first and second round and then bring them back in upcoming years.
How many would you say have been knocked out? Just kind of an idea.
Some of those were not all streets. One was the community center parking lot. One was paving the parking lot here at March Goodfellow, and one was paving the parking lot here at the borough office. So it was definitely those 3. There were a couple alleys that were knocked out, obviously, and then Rutledge. So I would say there might have been about 6 streets that were knocked out, plus the 3 parking lots.
And is Rutledge only the first half of Rutledge?
That was only a section that was not
Right where it
paved.
dips down.
Yeah.
And it looks nice after that.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, it was
that got
just to
redone.
clean that up, but it was
Yeah.
really,
That got
there's no
redone a year ago.
deficiencies in it now. It was just to basically make the entire length
Yeah, about
uniform.
house number 221, right around in there, it looks, where those little
Changed it.
apartments are, it
Yeah.
looks nice. So it's just, and that's 70,000 just for the first half.
More, probably because of the width too.
By the time you do it,
What's that?
There's not an escalator clause in there, because the price of oil's going up, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That won't be the same year, right?
Was Boundary one of the ones that got cut off? I know it's more of an alley, but it's.
I think initially that was on the list, yeah.
That's, I was gonna ask if somebody could take a look at that and put it on a future list, because it's pretty bad.
Well, the ones that dropped off the list they didn't go away, and, we'll reconsider it
Yeah.
when we get more.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Like I said, we went for a walk in cracks and.
Yeah, I think this is just to try to get ahead a little bit
Yeah,
again,
okay.
try to catch up, and obviously then look at upcoming years and get those reevaluated every year. It doesn't necessarily mean those ones that got knocked off take priority. You need to look at how things change year to year. Obviously, freeze thaw and amount of traffic.
Anyway, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, resolution adopting a telecommunication policy.
I have a question on why we're adopting this if we have a policy already from 2016.
My understanding, and I believe the mayor even recommended passing one as well, but there wasn't one done in the past.
Well, I have one from 2016 that I had, but I was just wondering, does it have to be a resolution? The policy wasn't.
It should have been by resolution, yeah.
It's more of a grammatical, I don't know that it matters for this if it's already been fixed, but yeah, you got to see.
You knew that the sunshine law allows this regardless of whether you have a policy or not.
Borough code says you're supposed to
Yeah,
adopt.
but the sunshine law specifically says you can participate on telecommunications as long as everyone can hear you and see.
It was just,
Under
I took
certain
the class on Wednesday,
circumstances.
that was one of the slides.
You can't just do it because you want to
Yeah.
stay home
An
now.
emergency, a
Right.
family illness, newborn, that was all on the slide.
I think it's interesting that the Borough Code says you have to have a resolution, so if you don't pass a resolution, but someone says, I gotta be home, I wanna participate electronically, and you can do so in the sunshine law, which one controls.
I think if you don't have the resolution, the sunshine law probably takes priority.
which would say you could do it.
Right, yeah.
So,
We already,
There's no harm in adopting it, it's just.
Yeah.
So this is,
Doesn't hurt anything.
Well,
What
I
was
don't
the-
think
you
we
said there was
realized
a,
we already had one, an old one.
What was the typo?
There's some
got there,
spaces.
Oh, spaces.
us and were put together. That was
Oh,
all.
I see, oh, no.
It's down.
Got it.
something
Yeah.
really stripping
Voice to text,
I'm very guilty of that.
yeah.
so this legitimizes the voting we've been doing in the past with speaker.
Well, no, the sunshine law allows us to do that.
Okay.
So we're okay either way. This is just,
Well, borough.
yeah, it just allows, you know.
So this doesn't even take any precedence over the sunshine law?
No, not really.
No.
So there's really no need for this? Are you
That's,
saying that?
I mean,
Solicitor?
I can look at it, but that's, my understanding has been for a very long time that you can participate electronically.
But the sunshine law could change again, which it recently did, right?
Well, with regard to the agenda, not with regard to participation.
No, but it could, it has changed
Yeah.
because the
It only-
governor said
it's only become
you couldn't do
broader.
it because of COVID, and
It's
then
it's
that
only
went
become broader
kaput.
over time. It's not become more
Motion?
restrictive.
So moved.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye.
Carried out.
To accept the resolution. You can fix the policy if you want. I don't know why it's okay. Although might be a word in some places. That's okay. Okay. Ordinance of the intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the intergovernmental insurance cooperative. That's the one we just talked about. Correct?
Yeah.
Move to approve it.
And,
Move to approve it.
One second.
okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Accepting the resignation of Valerie Strange from the Recreation Commission.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Payment of, okay, approval of payment application number 3 in the amount of $350,056.72 for the Franklin and Main Street Water and Sewer Project.
And I think Andrew said we still have retainage on him.
We're still holding 5%.
Yeah. Motion to approve it.
Yeah,
I'll second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye.
Who made the motion?
I think it was Dennis and seconded by Renell.
Yeah, I seconded.
Yeah.
Denny.
Okay, this is, we've talked about this before, a resolution authorizing Rose Fire Company services for events. This gives them, they're not covered under workman's comp unless we approve it. So what this does is it kind of gives them blanket approval to do functions in the borough. So like Myra's Parade, the Lions Club Parade, Santa Claus coming down the street, or even if the NCR would use fire police in one of their events, it would give them the workman's comp coverage. So I think it's very important, and Kim suggested it originally, and I think it's a good idea. So I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Burnell,
Second?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, resolution appointing members to the Property Maintenance Code. We had a working session, and we discovered that in order to continue with our property maintenance, we had to have an appeals committee consisting of 3 people, and 2 alternates. So we have, I seem to have lost it. Thank you. Okay, so we have Jenny Neubauer, Denise Wilderson, which is Brunel's wife, Mike Weirden, and then as alternates, we have Doug Brent and Melissa Schaefer. And that'll be our property maintenance committee. This committee would only be, would only meet if there was an appeal, like we cited someone because their grass was 2 feet high and they wanted to appeal because it was only 1 foot 8 inches or something.
Are they called an appeals board?
They're called an appeals board, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Right?
Property maintenance code.
Property maintenance code, Board of
Appeals,
Appeals.
Board of
Right.
Appeals.
Long name, but yeah, Board of Appeals. So I would entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second?
Okay, motion and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Do we have any correspondence? No, good, no correspondence. Public comment? No one wants to say the meeting's getting too long? Okay. All right, we are going to have an executive session. I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and I'm going to promise everybody that we are not going to, go ahead.
Did you do the ordinance on the alley?
Yeah, we did, I'm sorry, yeah, we did it whenever we talked about
Right,
it.
okay.
Yeah. And I'm not going to come back, and we're not going to reconvene to discuss anything in public. This executive session is going to be discussing a possible litigation for, under the property maintenance agreement for specific properties. Okay, thank you for coming, and this regular meeting, no, we're gonna go
Okay, I'll sit
somewhere
there.
else. Okay. So we're not coming back, but you're welcome to stay.
Well, we're coming back, we're just not.
Right, we're not gonna do it.
You want me at that, or?
Yes. Short,
If you can, I can move on this way right there.
Yeah,
I'll get you a street sign.
I would put it in my deed, so I don't have to ever go through it again.
Yeah, I don't-